The black and silver buggy roared up the steep rock face, but it suddenly reared up, flipped backward in a full rollover, then continued tumbling several more times down into the deep pit below the slope. The high-riding pickup truck with its massive tires launched straight up into the air from a high embankment, flipping forward its front end, slamming into the ground and landing completely upside down in the muddy field. The black buggy roared as it climbed a rough dirt embankment covered with rocks, but the front end suddenly shot up, causing the vehicle to flip backward and end up upside down right on the hillside. The green and black buggy accelerated hard to conquer the steep dirt slope, but just as it reached the top, it lost traction and ended up upside down on the bushes. The blue buggy charged hard up the rough dirt slope, but just as it climbed onto the high ledge, the front wheels struck a large rock, causing the vehicle to lose balance and flip completely over onto its roof. The black buggy roared hard as it tried to climb a rough, rocky slope in the forest. But while trying to clear the large boulder at the top, it suddenly lost balance, reared nearly vertical, and tipped over onto its side right next to a tree stump. The white rock bouncer roared to its maximum as it attempted to climb the rough, rocky trail through the forest when it suddenly lost traction, flipped over, and landed upside down at the bottom of the slope. The pink and purple buggy accelerated hard, trying to blast up the steep slope ahead, but it lost momentum and flipped backward in a full rollover through a thick cloud of dust. The buggy roared as it powered up the rough dirt slope, but as it neared the high ledge at the top, it suddenly lost traction, flipped backward, and ended up upside down right at the bottom of the hill. The buggy powered through the muddy section and charged up the hillside, but it suddenly lost its balance, flipped over, and came to rest upside down with all four wheels pointing skyward. The white and red buggy revved hard as it climbed the dirt hill in the dark, but it suddenly lost momentum and traction flipped onto its roof and slid all the way back down the slope before coming to rest upside down. Amid a thick blanket of fog, the steel frame buggy tried to climb the dirt slope but lost traction. It quickly slid sideways and rolled over, then managed to recover onto its wheels, spewing thick white smoke as the engine roared helplessly under heavy throttle. The burgundy buggy roared as it climbed the steep, rocky slope covered with thick brush. But just before reaching the top, it lost momentum, rolled down, the hillside crashed through the dense bushes, and fortunately landed back on all four wheels. The matte black buggy powered up the steep dirt embankment, but as the front wheels cleared the edge, it lost traction, flipped backward, slid down the slope, and eventually landed back on all four wheels. The blue buggy was trying to conquer the steep hill when it suddenly lost momentum, flipped backward, and tumbled repeatedly down the rocky slope before coming to rest upside down at the bottom. The gray buggy powered hard up the steep dirt slope covered with exposed tree roots. Just as the front wheels reached the crest, the vehicle reared nearly vertical, flipped completely backward, and slammed into a tree trunk. The driver then backed up, made another attempt, but the buggy reared up again and ended the climb upside down. The earth-brown buggy blasted through a muddy pit and accelerated toward a high dirt mound. The impact launched the vehicle into the air, where it landed on its roof and came to rest completely upside down. The cart climbed a slope made of large concrete blocks. Its front wheels lost traction, and it slid sideways, overturning and resting against a concrete barrier. The white buggy accelerated from the gravel bank and charged straight up the steep rock face. But the climb proved too steep. The front end reared up, the vehicle flipped backward, and it slid off the rock face into the shallow water at the base of the cliff. The off-road vehicle accelerated and hurtled straight up the sheer cliff. But halfway up, it lost momentum, the tires lost traction, and the vehicle flipped over before sliding down the cliff. The red and black buggy blasted up the steep hill at full speed. The momentum launched it high into the air, where it flipped backward and rolled several times before miraculously landing back on all four wheels. Two buggies charged one after the other, accelerating hard to conquer the steep dirt hill. While the gray buggy made the climb safely, the blue buggy carried too much speed, launched high into the air, flipped backward, and tumbled repeatedly all the way down to the bottom of the slope. The massive black pickup truck with white lettering floored the throttle, lifted its front end, and launched over a high dirt mound. The botched landing threw the truck off balance, sending it into a rollover before it came to rest upside down with thick smoke billowing from the vehicle. The red and white KFC buggy went full throttle in an attempt to climb the extremely steep sand hill. Just before reaching the top, it lost momentum, flipped violently backward, landed on its roof, and came to rest upside down at the base of the slope. The mega truck floored the throttle and launched across the muddy pit. Unfortunately, the stunt didn't go as planned. The truck lost its balance, flipped over, and came to rest upside down near the water's edge, drawing an excited roar from the crowd. The black Raceline buggy was powering up a steep dirt hill when it suddenly lost momentum. It rolled backward, slammed into a tree stump, and tipped onto its side, coming to rest, stuck just in front of the event marshals. The green buggy floored the throttle and charged up the steep hill. It suddenly reared up, struck a small tree trunk, then tumbled down the hillside before crashing into a large tree. The green buggy powered up the steep dirt hill, but it suddenly reared up and spun out of control. The vehicle flipped and rolled multiple times down the hillside before coming to rest upside down at the bottom of the hill. The purple and white buggy powered up the slippery dirt hill, but it suddenly lost momentum, flipped backward, rolled onto its roof, and slid back down the slope. The gray buggy powered up the steep dirt hill covered with dry leaves. Just moments from reaching the summit, it suddenly reared up, flipped backward, and came to rest upside down at the bottom of the slope. The black buggy blasted over the dusty hill at high speed and launched high into the air. After a heart-stopping flip above the treetops, it came to rest on its side halfway down the slope. The silver buggy accelerated hard and charged straight up the steep concrete embankment. The incline proved too steep, causing the front end to lift nearly vertical before the vehicle flipped backward and plunged into the deep pit below. The buggy struggled to climb the steep dirt slope, determined to conquer the challenge. But the incline was too steep, causing it to lose balance and tumble down the hillside in multiple loops, kicking up a huge cloud of dust behind it. The gray tube frame buggy accelerated hard up the steep red dirt hill. As it tried to climb the near vertical section beside a tree, it lost momentum and traction, causing the vehicle to tip over onto its side. The gray tube frame buggy accelerated aggressively in an attempt to conquer the near vertical dirt hill. It suddenly lost momentum, flipped backward, and rolled into a muddy pit below. The buggy came to rest upside down, then unexpectedly began pouring out a massive cloud of thick white smoke that engulfed the entire scene. The gray buggy charged aggressively up the muddy, slippery forest hill. Just before reaching the top, it lost momentum and slid backward before flipping over and coming to rest upside down on the leaf-covered hillside. The red Jeep powered up the slippery hill covered with dry leaves, but it suddenly lost its balance, tipped onto its side, and became stranded halfway up the slope. The buggy's engine roared as it powered hard up the steep, rocky dirt slope. But when the front wheels struck a large boulder, the vehicle immediately lost momentum, rolled backward, and came to a stop upside down with its undercarriage exposed on the hillside. The black and red buggy accelerated hard up the rocky dirt slope, but near the top, it suddenly lost momentum and tumbled several times backward down the hill. The buggy built up speed from the flat ground, rushed across the small stream, and then charged up the steep red dirt slope. But the incline was too steep, causing the vehicle to flip backward, roll down to the bottom of the hill, and crash back into the creek bed. The buggy hit the throttle hard and charged up the slippery, muddy slope. But while trying to climb over a rock ledge halfway up the front end, suddenly lifted the vehicle, flipped backward, and then slid down the hill upside down. The red steel frame buggy powered up a steep rocky dirt slope in the middle of the forest. But just before reaching the top, it lost traction, flipped backward, and ended up stuck upside down against a tree trunk. The white buggy dropped into an extremely narrow and deep muddy trench. As it tried to climb straight up, the front end shot straight upward, the vehicle flipped backward and became tightly wedged between the two sides of the slope. The white frame buggy charged hard up the slope, but the suspension compressed heavily after hitting a large rock. The rebound launched the front end into the air, causing the vehicle to flip backward and crash into a tree stump. The orange and silver buggy accelerated up the slippery, muddy slope, but when it tried to get over the steep rock ledge at the top, it lost momentum, reared straight up at a 90-degree angle, then flipped backward and ended up upside down at the bottom of the hill. The bare steel frame buggy built up momentum and accelerated up the rough red dirt slope, but just as it reached the top, it suddenly hit a high dirt and rock ledge, causing the rear end to lift, strike a tree trunk, lose balance, flip backward, and end up completely upside down. The red buggy hit the gas and powered up the treacherous dirt slope in the forest. But while trying to climb over the steep embankment, it lost momentum, flipped backward in a full roll, and ended up completely upside down. The dark blue buggy powered hard up the barren, rocky gravel slope. But when it hit a steep rock face, the front wheels were thrown high into the air, causing the vehicle to lose momentum, flip backward over a tree by the roadside, and tumble down the hillside. The black buggy charged hard up the dangerous red dirt slope, but when it hit the steep rock ledge at the top, the front end shot straight up. The vehicle lost balance, flipped backward, and ended up upside down on the hillside. The blue buggy built up speed and charged up the rocky dirt hill. When it reached the vertical rock face near the top, the two front wheels were thrown high into the air in a near backflip position, but the vehicle managed to keep its balance. The black steel frame buggy with red rims struggled to climb the steep, rocky gravel slope. But just before reaching the top, the front wheels lost traction, causing the vehicle to flip backward and end up completely upside down on the hillside. The blue buggy lost control while descending the dirt slope, tipped over and slid down the steep, rocky hillside. It then slammed violently into two large tree trunks along the way before finally coming to a stop upside down. The orange buggy number 01 hit the gas and charged up the vertical rock face. Just as it reached the top, it lost momentum and was thrown backward, flipping 1.5 times before landing back on all four wheels. The black buggy with the words 90 proof on it accelerated hard up a steep rock face. But because the incline was too steep, the vehicle reared up, flipped backward, and landed back on all four wheels beside a tree stump. The bright pink buggy tried to accelerate up a muddy, slippery slope, but halfway up it lost momentum, flipped backward, and rolled all the way down to the bottom of the hill. The black buggy with pink accents started from the muddy pit and accelerated up a steep hill. But just before reaching the top, it lost momentum and slid backward. Then it hit a rocky dirt ledge, flipped backward in a full roll, and came to a stop. The black buggy powered up the slippery dirt slope, but halfway up, it lost momentum, suddenly hit a dirt ledge, reared straight up, flipped backward, and rolled down the hill.